In this episode, we are going to be creating a create to do component. So it's going to be a component that is going to allow us to create new to-dos and then save it to our database. So we are going to be creating a component, and of course we are going to have something on the October side to get all the data from that component and save it into our database. So first of all, we are going to be creating a new component. So I'm going to call it create_todo.view. And we are going to separate it into three parts: template, script, and style. And that's it. Now let's just create some HTML for our template. Just something that we can show it on the page. Okay, so we have that. And now I'm going to define my component right here. We are export default. Of course, we are going to define the name for it, and it's going to be create to do. And actually that's it for now. We just save this, and of course we have to add that component into our app.view file. So I'm just going to copy this out, paste it right here, call this create to do. And now we have to define it here in the components list. Of course, we also have to define it in our application right here. So now we have this component displaying on our app page. So if I save this, go to our browser, we can see create to do. Okay, now we have a component, we can start working with it. So now I'm actually going to delete this h1 tag, and I'm going to paste this in so that we don't lose time with it. It's just simple HTML. So we have a button, then we have this div called to do create, which is going to be shown once this button is clicked. And in here we have two fields. So we have input field for the title and a text area field for description. And also we have two buttons. So they are create and cancel. Also, you can see that we have some CSS classes right here. So we have a button and success, and also here button and success. These are the classes of the foundation CSS framework, which we are going to import right now here, so that our component and our application doesn't look so hideous as it does now. So I'm just going to save this. Let's check this out. So as you can see, we have create to do, enter title, enter description, create and cancel. Okay. Now I'm just going to go to the index.html file of your application. So you can go right here, and then you would paste this in. So this is just a CDN of the foundation framework. So if I save this, go to my page, as you can see, this looks a bit better right now. So we have this create to do, we have enter title, enter description. We are going to add some more styles during this video, so to make this look even more pretty. So one thing I am going to do right away is I'm just going to go to my to do component and change this to be h3 and this to be p tag. Save it. Okay, now this looks a bit better, so that we can know what the description is and what the title is. Okay, so first thing I want to do here is when I click this button to show this div right here. As you can see, they're both shown on the page right now. So I don't want to have this always appearing on the page. I want it to show it just when somebody clicks this button right here. So to do that, we are going to go to our script, and we are going to set the data. And I'm going to set a data called isCreating. And it's going to be set to false. So once this is turned into true, then we are going to be showing this right here. So this to do create. So to hide it right now, we will just do vshow. So vshow is creating. What this is telling Vue is that show this div if is creating data is set to true. For now it's set to false, so we shouldn't be seeing this once I save this file. So if I save it, go right here, as you can see we don't have any input fields, text area fields, and those two buttons. Okay, so how do we show it? So to show it, I'm going to have to set a method for it, and it's going to be called openForm. So I'm just going to do v-on click. So we add a click event to this button and set it to be openForm. Okay, so it's openForm. Now, right here we define our methods. So this is going to be our first method. It's going to be called openForm. And only thing that this is going to be doing is changing this is creating to true. So to do that, we just do this. So this is creating equals true. Now we are also going to need a method for closing the form. So we are going to create another method and call it closeForm. And this one is going to be doing the opposite thing of the openForm. So it's going to be setting the is creating data to false. Right, now we have this. Okay, so I think this should work. If I click create to do, we get this right here. Okay, now we still didn't add any event handlers and methods to close this form. So we are going to close it on this cancel button. So we just go right here and set v-on click equals to closeForm. Okay, let's test it out. Refresh this page. Create to do, cancel, create to do, cancel. Great, this works. There is one more thing I want to do, and that is when we click on this create to do, I want to hide it because it doesn't make any sense for this to still be here once we click it. So I'm just going to set this vshow to be is creating but false. So is creating, if is creating is false, then show this button. Otherwise, when is creating is changed to true, then hide this button. If we save it, as you can see, it already disappeared, but when I click cancel, it appears. Now it disappears. Okay, so we got that covered. Next thing we need to do, we need to actually emit the data to our application. So something needs to happen when we click this create button. So we are going to set a new method right here called v-on sendForm. Okay, so we have sendForm method. So when somebody clicks this, then that method should fire up. Now we don't have a sendForm method right now, but we are going to create it. Now what is this sendForm method going to be doing? So first of all, it's going to take the data from these two fields. So from the title field and the description field. To do that, we have to set vModel on them. And this one is going to be called title text. This one we are going to be calling title description. actually not title description, but description text. Okay. Now that we have these two models set up, we have to define them in our data. So we are going to define title text and description text. Okay, save it. And now we need to say to Vue, okay, title is going to be that title text that we define. So we are going to define a new variable right here, var title is this dot title text. So whatever is inputted into our title field, it's going to become this variable so that we can send it to our main application file. Okay, so we have that. And the next thing, we need to define our description. So this description text. Okay, so how do we send that? So we are going to send that via this method. So this dot emit, we are emitting this data to our app.vue file because our component is in that file. So emit, and we're going to call this create to do. And now we just send them title, description, and the status. The status for the newly created to-do items is always going to be 0 because they are not completed yet, because we just created them. So status, we just defined that 0 value right here. Okay, so now we are emitting this to our app.vue file. Of course, we have to do some things on the app.vue for this to work. So on our create to do component, we do v-on. Okay, so what did we just do right here? I said v-on create to do. So you can think of this as a custom event. So when this event happens, that we defined right here, so this is that emitting event. When this event happens, fire up add to do method. Of course, we don't have add to do method defined just yet, but we will have soon. We will have it soon, and we are going to define it right here below this mounted function. So this method actually needs to do two things. It needs to send that data to some kind of API endpoint to save it into our database. And the second thing it needs to do, it needs to display that to do. So when we click right here, we enter title, enter description, and then we want, when we click create, automatically display that title and description in our to-do list. So how are we going to do that? Let's deal with this first. So we are going to just add, we are not going to save anything to the database, we are just going to add that to do somewhere in this list. So we are receiving a to do from our form. So we have to define it right here. So we are expecting to get a to do from it. So we can check out how this to do actually looks. Okay. If we open up our console and create to do, and we do something here, and click create, now we see that we get an object, and that object has a description, status, and the title. So what we can do right here is to push this to do into our to do's array. So if we check out this data function right here, we have to do's, which is an array of all of our to do's. So this is basically our to do list. So whatever is displaying on this page, it's coming from this array. So to push it, we just do and that's it. So this is an object, and todos is an array of objects. So we just add this object to our todos array. We push it into it. And when we save this, and let's just try it out. So if I go create to-do, write something here, click create, we should get that at the bottom of our page. Okay, so there's one thing I actually just want to do here. So in our create to-do component, once this is emitted, I want to set is creating to false, so that we close our form for creating a to-do. Okay, let's just try it out once more. So we got create to-do, write something in it, click create, this disappears, and we get this at the bottom of our page. Of course, if I refresh this page right now, you can see that we don't have anything at the bottom because we still didn't save it to our database, and that is what we are going to be doing right now. To save this into our database, we are of course going to be using axios. So we just do axios. That, of course, when we were getting the data, we used this get method. But since we are now posting that data to our server or to our API endpoint, we are going to use the method post. And we also have to post it to some API endpoint. So in our case, it's going to be called http todo.dev API, not todos, but we are going to call that API endpoint add to do. And since we are posting something, we have to post some data to it. Our data is this to do right here. So this is our to do. We are going to post it, and then we can, that's actually everything we need to do. We can just put the semicolon right here, and that's it. But we also wanna catch a response from the server to see what the server says, and also we want to catch an error if it happens. So to do that, we just do then function, and we want to console log it. And if the error happens, we do the same thing. So we catch it, and then we also console log it. Okay, so let's try this out just to see what we are. Of course, this isn't going to work, but just to see what we get. So refresh this, click create to do, enter title, enter description, click create. And as you can see, we actually get something from the server, and the status is actually okay. So what is happening right here? Well, if you check out the network and click right here, as you can see, if you check out the preview, so this is what is coming from the server, you get this message, and also you get this page not found. But since it's getting a response from the server, Vue doesn't handle that as an error, but just as a regular response. So we are not getting any errors right here, but we actually are. So okay. Of course, this doesn't work because we still didn't create this add to do API endpoint. So we are going to be doing that right now. Okay, so now we go to our plugins. We have this watch learn right here, to do, and now we have routes. So this is our populate route. This is our to do's route. So we are getting all of the to-dos from that route. And the next thing we need to create is we need to create a post route called add to do. And now to receive the data that we are sending from the Vue end, we just do this. So everything that is coming from the Vue, it's going to be stored into this data variable. Next thing we need to do, we need to create a new to-do on our backend. So we need to create new to-do item and save it to our database. Because we are using October and October is using Laravel, this is actually going to be very simple. So we just do to-do create. Just like we did right here. So when we populated our database, so we have this to-do create. And now we define the title, description, and status. Okay, so I think this should actually be it. If we go right here, let's refresh it. Let's try to create a to-do, click create, and we are getting an error. Let me see if we click add to-do. As you can see, we are actually hitting that API endpoint, but we are getting this error that we don't have this request input. So I think I know what's wrong with it. We have to use illuminate HTTP request. So you use it, save it, and now let's refresh the page. Create to do and click create. Okay, we have this new to do right here, but if we refresh the page, we still got it. So as you can see, this works. Also, I have some of these because I had some problems with saving it to the database, because of course I forgot a semicolon. So these are two new that I added so that I can test this out. But this is ours. So we can try it again. Click create, do something like this, create. Okay, it's at the end of the page. And if we refresh the page, we are still getting this. So as you can see, saving those to-dos to the October database actually works right now. Let's just do a bit of styling right here. So I'm going to refresh this page, click create to do. Let's go to our create to do list, and at the bottom right here, we can define some styles for our form. So we have this to do create. So I'm just going to, let's give it a margin of 20 pixels. Maybe give it a width so it's not over the whole page. 500 pixels. Let's give it a padding. And maybe a border. Okay, and now this looks like a little bit better. It's not perfect, but it's a little bit better. Also, we can maybe do something like text area and give it a height of 150 pixels. Okay, if we click cancel, we have this create to do. If we click this, we have this right here. For your homework, yes, I'm giving you homework in this episode. So for your homework, try to deal with this. So when I do something like this, click create and then click create to do, as you can see, these values stay in those fields. So try to figure out how you can make, when the form is sent, how you can make these fields be empty. Okay, this is it for this episode. Remember, everything we did here will be available for you on GitHub. The link will be in the description below. If you want to ask me questions, you can use Facebook, Twitter, GitHub, YouTube, my site for that. Of course, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you like the channel and content I put out, you can maybe subscribe to it. And if you want to send some money my way, you can do that using the Patreon page. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next episode.